They thought Earth was finished. They marked it as a dead world. They erased it from their star maps. But they forgot one thing about humanity. Humans do not abandon their home. And when the stars finally look back, they will not find a grave. They will find guardians. 312 years ago, the last colony fleet left Earth. The skies were grey then. Oceans were poisoned. Forests burned in slow motion. Cities drowned under rising tides. Governments collapsed under panic. Humanity looked at its dying cradle and decided survival mattered more than loyalty. So they left. Billions boarded generation ships and warp carriers. They scattered across 12 distant systems. They built shining cities under alien suns. They called it progress. And Earth was declared a loss. But not everyone agreed. Dr. Orin Solano stood inside an underground chamber beneath what was once the Andes Mountains. He was young when the fleets departed. Only 32. A planetary systems engineer with a dangerous idea. Earth was not dead. It was wounded. And wounds can heal. 206 people stayed behind. Scientists, farmers, engineers, teachers, families. They faked transport failures during evacuation chaos. Official records listed them as lost in launch disasters. In truth, they vanished underground. They called themselves the Keepers. They built deep ecovaults powered by geothermal cores. They seeded the oceans with engineered microorganisms designed to eat plastic and neutralize toxins. They created atmospheric towers that filtered carbon and rebuilt oxygen levels molecule by molecule. They worked without applause, without help, without certainty. The first 50 years were brutal. Food was scarce. Surface radiation storms destroyed early equipment. 2 volts collapsed under seismic shifts. Many died. But humans adapt. They learned to grow crops in mineral foam. They designed coral structures that rebuilt reefs faster than nature ever had. They revived extinct plant species from frozen DNA libraries. And slowly, Earth began breathing again. By year 100, rivers flowed clear in places untouched for centuries. By year 180, forests covered continents once reduced to ash. By year 200, animal populations stabilized in self-sustaining cycles. The Keepers changed too. To survive long-term exposure to fluctuating radiation and environmental extremes, they modified themselves. Carefully, ethically, gradually. Longer lifespans. Enhanced immune systems. Neural interfaces allowing them to monitor planetary ecosystems directly. They did not become machines. They became connected. Every Keeper could feel shifts in forest health, ocean acidity, atmospheric pressure. Earth was no longer just home. It was family. Now, 3 centuries after abandonment, Earth looked like paradise. Green continents, blue oceans, stable climate bands, cleaner than before the industrial age. Dr. Orin Solano did not live to see this final form. But his daughter did. Commander Lyra Solano stood on the surface for the first time in her life without a filtration mask. The air smelled like rain and pine. Above her, satellites detected something unexpected. Incoming warp signatures. Multiple vessels. Human design. The Colonial Federation had returned. Inside the Keeper Council chamber, silence filled the air. They received our signal, someone whispered. 2 decades earlier, the Keepers had finally sent a simple transmission into deep space. Earth lives. They had not begged anyone to return. They had not announced success. They simply stated a fact. Earth endures. And now, 12 Federation vessels hovered at the edge of the solar system. Lyra watched tactical projections form in the air. These are not exploration ships, said analyst Roven. Heavy hull plating. Defensive arrays active. They think Earth is still unstable, someone said. No, Lyra answered quietly. They think it is unclaimed. Centuries change cultures. The Colonial Federation had grown powerful. 8 billion humans across multiple systems. Trade alliances with alien civilizations. military fleets built to defend expanding borders. And resources were becoming thin. Terraforming new worlds was expensive. Maintaining artificial biospheres required constant energy. But Earth was already perfect. And strategically located. The Federation transmitted an official message to any surviving automated systems on Sol 3. This is Admiral Cale Thorne of the Colonial Federation. We are initiating planetary assessment and reclamation protocols under ancestral restoration law. Reclamation. They were claiming ownership. As if Earth were an abandoned warehouse. Lyra felt anger ripple through the neural link connecting her to the planetary grid. Forest sensors spiked slightly with her emotional feedback. She steadied herself. "We respond," she said. The communication array powered up. Her face appeared on Federation screens for the first time in 3 centuries. "This is Commander Lyra Solano of Earth," she said calmly. "Planetary biosphere stable. Civilization active. Reclamation request denied." Silence followed. Then confusion. Then disbelief. "You claim operational authority?" Admiral Thorne asked. "We do not claim it," Lyra replied. "We earned it." Sensor feeds streamed into Federation ships. Atmospheric data. Ocean purity levels. Wildlife density charts. Everything impossible. Earth was thriving beyond pre-collapse baselines. Thorne's expression hardened. The Federation abandoned this world legally under survival protocols. All colonial descendants retain ancestral rights. "And what of responsibility?" Lyra asked. "Does abandonment carry no cost?" Murmurs echoed behind the Admiral. "We built humanity among the stars," Thorne said. "We ensured survival." "And we ensured home," Lyra replied. The tension thickened. Federation vessels adjusted orbit slightly closer. Keeper defense systems activated silently beneath oceans and forests. Not weapons of destruction. But something smarter. The Keepers never built warships. They built control. Orbital solar arrays shifted position, redirecting energy fields. Surface magnetic grids strengthened. The entire planet subtly altered its electromagnetic profile. Federation scanners began glitching. Navigation systems reported false gravitational distortions. Weapon locks failed to calibrate. Earth was not attacking. Earth was resisting. "What are you doing?" Thorne demanded. "Demonstrating," Lyra answered, "that this world is no longer defenseless." Inside Federation command decks, officers exchanged uneasy looks. This was not a primitive remnant population. This was a civilization. Hidden. Advanced. United. And deeply rooted. Lyra softened her tone. "You are welcome to visit. To learn. To reconnect. But you will not claim what you chose to leave." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then long-range sensors detected something else. Unknown signatures. Not human. 3 massive alien vessels exiting warp behind the Federation fleet. Trade allies of the Federation. Observers. And perhaps opportunists. Earth was no longer a forgotten grave. It was a prize. And now the galaxy knew it was alive. Lyra looked at the tactical projection. Humans who left. Aliens who watched. A healed world at the center. She took a steady breath. "Prepare diplomatic channels," she ordered. "And prepare planetary shield phase 2. Humanity had once run from a dying world. Now they would defend a living one. And this time, they were ready. The alien ships were 3 times the size of the Federation cruisers. They did not move like human vessels. They unfolded. Dark metal petals rotated outward from their cores, forming massive ring structures that shimmered with shifting light. Energy readings spiked across every Keeper station. Inside Earth's underground command network, silence fell. "Identification confirmed," Analyst Rovan said carefully. "The Ketheri Dominion. Strategic trade partners of the Colonial Federation. Highly territorial. Highly advanced." Lyra Solano watched the projection. The Ketheri were not explorers. They were assessors. They studied weakness. Then they negotiated from superiority. Or they conquered. The Dominion vessels positioned themselves behind the Federation fleet, not aggressive, but not neutral either. Admiral Thorne's face reappeared on the transmission channel. His confidence was thinner now. "This development complicates matters," he admitted. "You brought observers?" Lyra asked. "They insisted." Of course they did. The Federation had likely spoken of Earth as a relic. A broken ancestral world. A potential resource zone. A terraforming opportunity requiring little investment. But what now hovered beneath them was not broken. It was powerful. And power attracts attention. Across Earth, the planetary grid activated deeper protocols. The oceans brightened faintly as bioluminescent reef cities shifted formation. Forest canopies adjusted leaf angles, altering atmospheric conductivity. Orbital arrays rotated into synchronized alignment. Earth was breathing with purpose. In the Ketheri flagship, a tall, silver-skinned envoy observed the data streams. Its elongated eyes narrowed. "Impossible," it murmured in its native harmonic language. "A species that abandons its cradle does not return to strength." The Dominion had studied thousands of civilizations. When a species leaves its homeworld due to collapse, that world becomes a fossil. Cultural memory fades. Attachment weakens. Return is sentimental at best. But this was different. Earth was not sentimental. It was strategic. Back in the Keeper chamber, Lyra felt the planetary neural network pulse beneath her skin. Millions of biosensors feeding her real-time data. "We cannot win a fleet battle," Rovan said quietly. "We will not fight one," Lyra replied. She turned to communications. Open broadcast to all vessels. Human and Ketheri. The signal went wide. "This is Commander Lyra Solano of Earth," she said calmly. "You are witnessing not a relic, but evolution." Behind her, visual feeds shifted. Live footage of restored Amazonian forests stretching beyond the horizon. Whale pods breaching in crystal waters. Cities grown from living stone and coral, harmonizing with ecosystems instead of replacing them. "This planet was dying," she continued. "Not because it was weak. Because we were careless." The Ketheri envoy leaned closer to its display. "We did not terraform Earth," Lyra said. "We listened to it." Atmospheric processors adjusted slightly. Wind patterns shifted in visible waves across continents. Cloud formations formed elegant spirals. "We learned how to repair ecosystems without dominating them. How to grow cities that feed forests instead of cutting them down. How to extend human life without shortening the planets." Admiral Thorne watched, conflicted. The Federation had mastered expansion. Industry. Military coordination. Interstellar trade. But they had never mastered restraint. "You are demonstrating ecological control," the Ketheri envoy finally transmitted. Its voice layered and resonant. "At planetary scale." "Yes," Lyra answered simply. The envoy paused. Such technology would stabilize hundreds of contested systems. There it was. Interest. The Dominion did not want Earth. They wanted the method. Lyra had expected this. The Keepers had always known their greatest defense would not be weapons. It would be value. "We are willing to share knowledge," Lyra said carefully. "But not ownership." Admiral Thorne stiffened. "Earth is humanity's ancestral property." Lyra met his gaze. "Property?" she asked softly. "Or responsibility?" Silence again. The Ketheri envoy turned toward the Federation fleet holographically. "You described this world as abandoned infrastructure," it said coldly. "You failed to mention active civilization." Thorne's jaw tightened. "We believed no one remained." "You did not check," Lyra said. That stung. Because it was true. In their rush to survive, to expand, to build new empires among the stars, they never looked back carefully. It was easier to remember Earth as tragedy than as possibility. A junior Federation officer interrupted urgently. "Admiral, planetary magnetic fields are shifting again. Our navigation systems are recalibrating every 3 seconds." Lyra did not smile. She simply let Earth respond. Massive underground geothermal regulators pulsed. The magnetosphere strengthened subtly. Solar radiation bent in controlled arcs around orbital space. Not aggressive, but undeniable. Earth could isolate itself if necessary. The Kethri envoy processed the data rapidly. A self-regulating planetary defense lattice, it observed. Integrated with biosphere. "Yes," Lyra said. "We defend by belonging." The phrase confused several alien analysts. But it unsettled them more than threats would have. Because conquest requires separation. And Earth was inseparable from its guardians. Admiral Thorne exhaled slowly. "What do you propose?" he asked at last. Lyra had waited 3 centuries for that question. "Recognition of Earth as sovereign," she said. "Shared cultural access under Keeper guidance. Scientific exchange programs. And no militarized presence in orbit." "And if we refuse?" Thorne asked. The Kethri envoy answered before she could. "Then you will face a unified planetary intelligence capable of destabilizing fleet operations without firing a weapon." The Dominion respected strength. They were beginning to respect Earth. But then everything shifted. Long-range sensors flared again. More warp signatures. Unscheduled. Unidentified. Not Federation. Not Kethri. Roven's voice trembled slightly. "Unknown vessels entering system. Configuration. Unfamiliar. Power readings extreme." The holographic projection zoomed outward. 5 sleek, obsidian-colored ships emerged from warp space beyond Pluto's orbit. Their design was unlike anything catalogued. Smooth. Silent. Elegant. Watching. The Kethri envoy stiffened visibly. "It cannot be," it whispered. "You know them?" Lyra asked. "They do not involve themselves," the envoy replied. "They observe developing civilizations. Rarely intervene." "Who are they?" Admiral Thorne demanded. The envoy hesitated. "Architects. A species older than recorded galactic history. Rumored to guide the rise and fall of civilizations subtly. If they were here, then Earth was no longer a local dispute. It was a galactic anomaly. One of the Obsidian ships transmitted a single narrow-beam message. It bypassed Federation channels, bypassed Kethri encryption, and connected directly to Earth's planetary neural grid. Lyra gasped as the signal touched her consciousness. It was not language. It was pattern. Mathematical. Elegant. Curious. A question. "Why did you return?" Not physically, but spiritually. Lyra steadied herself, and answered through the planetary network. "We did not return. We never left." Seconds stretched. Then the architects repositioned slightly. Their fleet moved closer to Earth. Not threatening. Studying. Across every ship in orbit, human and alien alike, unease spread. Humanity had been evaluated before. Measured. Sometimes dismissed. But this time was different. This time humanity had done something rare. They had repaired instead of replaced. Healed instead of harvested. Defended without conquering. And the galaxy was noticing. Lyra looked at the projection. Federation fleets uncertain. Kethri calculating. Architects observing. And Earth, steady. Alive. Bright. For the first time in 3 centuries, humanity's birth world was not asking to be saved. It was setting the terms. Lyra's voice echoed across all open channels. "Welcome to Earth," she said calmly. "But understand this. We are not what you left behind." The architects did not speak in words. They spoke in understanding. Their signal moved through Earth's planetary network like light through water. It did not push. It did not demand. It observed. And it learned. Lyra Solano stood motionless inside the Keeper command chamber, eyes closed as the alien intelligence touched the biosphere interface woven into her nervous system. Around her, thousands of Keepers felt it too, a presence vast and ancient, brushing against forests, oceans, magnetic fields. The architects were not scanning for weapons. They were searching for intent. Across orbit, Federation officers waited in tense silence. Kethri Dominion vessels dimmed their engine signatures, careful not to appear aggressive. For the first time since arriving, no one was posturing. Because something older than all of them was watching. The signal pulsed again. A question formed in Lyra's mind. You abandoned this world. Why protect it now? Lyra breathed slowly. She did not answer with strategy. She answered with truth. Because it is ours. Not to own. To belong to. Images flowed outward from Earth's network. Memories stored in planetary archives. Children planting the first engineered saplings in toxic soil. Engineers crying when the first coral reef revived. Keepers standing in radiation storms repairing atmospheric towers by hand. Graves of those who died before success was certain. 3 centuries of quiet devotion. The architects absorbed it all. On Federation command decks, instruments flickered as gravitational readings shifted slightly. Not dangerously. Just enough to remind them that they were not the most advanced presence here. Admiral Thorne felt something he had not felt since childhood lessons about old Earth. Shame. We left because we were afraid, he said quietly, though no one had asked. Lyra opened her eyes. Yes, she replied gently. And fear saved humanity. She did not accuse them. That mattered. The Kethri envoy analyzed the data streaming from Earth's biosphere. You integrated with your environment instead of dominating it, the envoy observed. Yes. This is inefficient for rapid expansion. Yes. And yet, the envoy continued slowly, your planet now generates surplus ecological stability exceeding industrial terraforming outputs. Yes. The envoy's elongated eyes narrowed in what might have been respect. The Federation had built empires quickly. The Keepers had built permanence. Suddenly, one of the architect vessels moved. It descended closer to Earth's orbit, positioning itself between the Federation fleet and the planet. Not attacking. Balancing. A new signal radiated outward, this time on open frequencies. The architects rarely interfered in developing civilizations. But they had protocols. Civilizations that destroy their cradle worlds often repeat the pattern across the stars. Civilizations that learn to heal them, change the pattern. A harmonic translation filled every ship's audio systems. This world demonstrates adaptive maturity. Resource seizure will not be permitted. The words were calm. Absolute. Federation officers exchanged stunned looks. The architects had drawn a line. Admiral Thorne swallowed. You are granting them protection status, he asked carefully. Correction, the harmonic voice replied. They have granted it to themselves. Silence followed. For centuries, the Federation believed survival meant leaving weakness behind. Now weakness had become strength. The Kethri envoy tilted its head slightly. The Dominion seeks ecological stabilization techniques, it said to Lyra. We are prepared to negotiate equitably. That was as close to humility as the Kethri ever came. Lyra nodded. Earth will share knowledge, she said. Not to empower conquest, but to prevent collapse. The envoy accepted. The Federation fleet remained quiet. Finally, Admiral Thorne straightened. Commander Solano, he said slowly, the Federation recognizes Earth as sovereign. The words carried weight. Not just political weight. Emotional weight. For 3 centuries, Thorne continued, we told our children that Earth was a tragedy. A warning. A mistake. He looked down at the live feed of green continents and blue oceans. We were wrong. Lyra did not celebrate. She simply nodded. You survived, she said. That is not wrong. But survival is not the end of the story. The architect vessel shifted again, aligning directly above the Pacific. Another pulse entered Earth's network. This time it was not a question. It was an offer. Collaboration. Not domination. Not oversight. Partnership. The architects had never invited a young civilization into cooperative design. Until now. Across keeper stations worldwide, stunned whispers spread. The Federation had built among the stars. The keepers had rebuilt a world. Together, humanity now stood at a crossroads the galaxy had not predicted. Admiral Thorne exhaled slowly. "What happens next?" he asked. Lyra looked at Earth's horizon through surface cameras. Sunlight glinted across oceans once filled with poison. Birds flew above forests that should not exist. Children laughed in cities grown from living stone. "What happens next," she said softly, "is that we stop running." The Federation fleet powered down its weapon systems. The Kethri vessels adjusted formation into diplomatic configuration. The architect ships maintained silent orbit. Earth remained steady. Not conquered. Not reclaimed. Recognized. Hours later, joint landing parties stepped onto Earth's surface for the first time in 300 years. Federation officers removed their helmets cautiously. They breathed. Clean air. Unfiltered. Real. Some cried quietly. They had grown up under artificial skies on distant worlds. This felt different. Alive. A young Federation cadet knelt and touched the soil. "It's warm," she whispered. "Yes," Lyra replied beside her. "It always was." Above them, orbital construction began, not military platforms, but shared research stations designed by humans and architects together. The Kethri transmitted requests for ecological exchange teams. The Federation Senate opened emergency sessions to rewrite expansion doctrines. And throughout it all, Earth pulsed calmly. The world that was declared dead had become the teacher. Centuries ago, humanity fled a dying planet in fear. A handful stayed behind in faith. Now the galaxy saw something new. Not just human resilience. Not just human intelligence. But human accountability. The architects transmitted one final harmonic statement before withdrawing slightly from close orbit. Civilization advancement requires conquest of self before conquest of space. Humanity demonstrates progression. Lyra stood at the edge of a restored cliff overlooking the ocean. Ships glittered above like distant stars. For the first time, Earth was not isolated. It was central. Not because it was powerful, but because it had healed. She smiled faintly. "They thought we defended a corpse," she murmured. Behind her, children of the Keepers and children of the Federation played together on living grass. But we defended a future. And this time, humanity would not abandon it.